Representative Stevenson, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and tell me a bit more about your expanded role here in the legislature. So first, introduce yourself to the greater folks that are watching who may not have an idea of who Pam Stevenson is, or maybe they have heard of you but want to know a bit more about who you are.
Thank you for doing this interview. I love Kentucky. I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. My mom and dad still live in Louisville, Kentucky, in the house I was raised in. I served 27 years in the United States Air Force and retired as a colonel. And I came back home to Kentucky because I wanted to do for Kentucky what I did for America. And this opportunity to serve all Kentuckians and take Kentucky to the top of the pack is exciting.
What are going to be the issues that are really driving the caucus as we get started in 2025?
One of the things, I forgot an important thing. I'm a quilter. I am an award-winning quilter. I won ribbons at the state fair, and I'm very proud of that. So I tell everybody that will listen. Now, back to business.
All right.
What's always at the forefront of what we do as legislators is how can the government enhance the lives of its people? How can the government be for the people, by the people, to serve the people with minimal intrusion? And so this time when we look around everything that's happening, we believe that everybody has to have food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and education. That this body, if you're a human, the human body needs healthcare. The human body needs food. The human body needs running water. And we want every rural area to have running water. So we want to focus on the basics to make sure that families can thrive, that children can do better than their parents, and that everybody feels like their life matters and that their voice is heard.
Is there any early ideas in terms of policy or bill drafts that y'all are going to be planning to introduce to folks whenever we get started?
We are working on those items right now. We want to make sure that we work with the majority and at the same time push forward those things that our constituents have asked us to. So we're in the middle, before the interim starts in about a month, in the middle of designing particular policies that will address those areas. Now, some things we will see from last session, but mostly we're doing the thinking now. We're doing the interviewing of people now to see what do the people want and how can we provide that.
You mentioned working with the majority there. Is there any approach that will differ from years past on how some of your prior colleagues have interacted with the majority, and what's going to be the approach moving forward in order to still get priorities accomplished?
Well, the people that have come before me have built the platform for which I'm on currently. And we believe the same thing, that we should listen and we should advocate. I should understand their position as they should understand mine. Now, when we talk, and we do talk a lot, we agree on the same principles, that every child should be loved and nurtured, that every family should have a house and health care, and that every person should feel valued. Ask anyone, do they disagree with any of that? And they'll say no. When we stay focused on those things and not the politics, we get things done. So my goal is to keep us focused on the issue at hand and move the needle as far as we can in the areas that we agree on.
What about the areas you potentially disagree on? Y'all are a small but loud voice. I mean, how do you move the needle whenever there are things where there's going to be some conflict?
Well, 80 is always greater than 19. That's just the way mathematics works. And the best we can do is have the public that agree that we should have running water in every home. The public that agrees that we should have internet for the areas that don't have internet. If the public, if the citizens of the state will engage and say, this is what I need to have my life work, then we'll get help from them. They can talk to their representatives. They can talk to us. They can lobby for the things that they want, and we will back them up. And my experience has been that the majority will listen to their constituents.
Coming off the heels of a presidential election, I just went to the elector meeting that was a little earlier today. What do Kentucky's results really say to you as a Democrat? And then you look at the year prior and you saw how the governor's race turned out. It was a very strong night for Democrats then. What signals are you being sent in terms of moving forward, and how do Democrats continue to establish good footing moving forward in the state?
What people have said loud and clear is, I want food, clothing, and shelter. I want health care. I want to go into the groceries and pay a certain amount of money for food. I want the issues that directly impact my life to be addressed. I don't want the issues you think are important, legislators, to take and dominate the front newspapers. I want you to listen to what we're saying and listen to the fact that my kid has to undergo shooter drills at school and comes home terrified. What are you going to do about it? They want us to listen and address their concerns, not our opinions.
I want to take a moment to also ask about maybe an uncomfortable topic when it comes to the caucus relationship with another member who's not a member of the caucus anymore. You mentioned, there's 19, not 20. There's one member who's not a part of the caucus anymore, but he's still a member of the party. How is that relationship going to move forward with that individual as we start 2025 and they're still holding office?
The individual's still holding office, and we just have to let the processes that we've adopted follow through. We have to wait until we have a result from the different processes that he's participating in before any decisions can be made about anything. We've done all we can do at this point to make sure that he has what he needs to represent the people he represents, and at the same time allow the system to work.
What are some other things you think folks should know as we turn the page going into 2025?
2025 is a new opportunity. That democracy only works when the people engage. If you're not engaged, look and see why. If you have a complaint about your government, and it is your government, ask yourself, what am I doing about that complaint? I said I served 27 years in the United States Air Force. I served in the Middle East, Africa, Italy, Germany, all over America. I worked with people who gave the ultimate price, their life, for the promise of America. And we all want to make it better. So the question you have to ask yourself, am I engaged, consistent with what I can do? Not everybody can do everything. Not everybody has the means to donate. Not everybody has the means to do what other people do. But everybody can do something. And if we really believe in the promise of America, justice and liberty for all, if we really believe that this experiment called America has prevailed, then what we need to do is put our money where our mouth is and engage. It requires each and every person to engage. And when you don't engage, certain smaller groups of people take over and you don't get the result you want. And you certainly won't reach the promise of America.
The Republicans have mentioned that they're going to be moving to lower the state income tax at the start of the next session. The governor is signaled support for that. How is the caucus feeling?
Well, we have to, when the governor is the top Democrat in the state, and we have to look and see what's going to make the most difference for our people. So the question always becomes, yes, everybody wants a lower income tax. And then the second, right after that, is how are you going to pay for roads? You're already complaining they're unworkable. How are you going to pay for schools? How are you going to pay for the things that an individual family cannot pay for? That it requires a government agency to fund and make sure is widely available. How will you pay for those things that middle class people cannot pay for themselves? And when you answer those questions truthfully and honestly, then the right answer will show up. it is possible you can give a tax cut and make sure that those things are paid for. And according to I believe it's the Kentucky,
Center for Economic Policy.
yes. See, thank you. We've not worked out those details. That the amount of revenue coming in is right now, without a tax cut, insufficient. So if the amount of revenue coming in is insufficient for our needs now, how is that going to be helped by a tax cut? I think everybody should get some money back. And at the same time, ask people what they want. Do they want roads, schools? What do you want and what are you willing to pay for? Again, it goes back to citizen engagement.
You frequently hit on improving roads, improving schools, making groceries affordable, and other basic necessities more affordable. In the past couple sessions, though, we also will see bigger social issues kind of get a big response here in the legislature. Many of the folks I've talked to try and get an idea of how 2025 will go mentioned that DEI may come up again this year is an issue. What's going to be the approach for that from your caucus's perspective?
Well, and we say from our caucus, but we're hearing from the people that we represent. Each one of us represents about 45,000 people, and everybody wants their voice to be heard. And when you say, I am against diversity, equity, and inclusion, what are you really saying you're against? What are you saying you don't want to see happen? Why are you trying to close the mouths and the input of people that are Kentuckians? Have you built another system where they can walk up and they can say, this is what I need? Will you provide it? Why are we always coming up with policy that rests squarely on the backs of people that earn lower incomes? So I don't know if it's even a real thing or a diversion to keep our attention focused in that area. But I would say if you really care about Kentuckians, if you really care about what people want, you will listen to your constituents and do that and not follow your own personal opinion about the way you think things should be.
Other Democrat priorities I've covered in the past before, we've had a car bill filed before, I think by both Republican and Democrat, a safe storage law, an exceptions bill. Is there a possibility that those are revisited again this year, and how do you make sure they're not dead on arrival?
Again, 80 is greater than 19. The only thing we can do is advocate, file, educate, and then make the request that they move. That's it, that's all.
How does that not wear you down over time? What keeps you going?
What keeps me going is my faith. I really believe that the greatest of these is love. Love never fails. And that if I treat people the way I want to be treated, the way I've been treated, if I extend the same grace, things are going to work out. That's number one. Number two, my family. Everybody's got a family. You got to be concerned about your kids, your great-grandkids, and your great-great-grands, that 100 years from now when there's another pandemic, will they say we did the right thing to preserve the promise of America? Will they say we stood up for them when they couldn't stand up for themselves? We've got to be brave. We've got to work together. And I've been married 41 years. I'd like to believe my husband agrees with everything I say. But if he were here, he would say he doesn't. We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to move on the things we agree on, and Kentucky will rise to the top. Kentucky will lead the way. I've been all over this world, all over this country. We have no finer people than in Kentucky. We have the smarts, the kindness, the generosity, the heart. We can be at the top of the pack instead of towards the end in a lot of different areas if we're brave enough to do what needs to be done.
Well spoken. That pretty much ran through all the questions that I had for you, but if there's anything else you want to make sure to mention, the floor is yours.
Oftentimes I always get asked by people, I'll be shopping, I'll be at a restaurant, I'll be out in public, and people come up to me and ask, what can I do to participate? And I tell them this: find the one thing you can do and do it consistently. So I'm challenging your watchers, listeners. I am challenging the people watching. Find the one thing you can do that makes your community better, that makes your country better, that makes your state better, and do that. One thing. And then when all the one things are connected, we'll have a better Kentucky, a better community, and a better life.
All right. Representative Stevenson, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks.